the Doomloop Dispatch, the show covering the worst parts of the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm your host, Kevin L.Jones, and tonight, or at least this week, I'm just going to do kind of a short, kind of off the cuff episode. I am really busy with work. I'm actually putting on a big show next week, and along with family stuff, and just kind of trying to live life. I just don't have time to really kind of write out a full script, get an interview. I also have some kind of bigger news, but I'm going to save that for later. But yeah, not to say Doomloop Dispatch is dying yet. Maybe at some point, who knows? This is a lot of work for little to no support financially or anything like that. So it's, I'm kind of just doing it because I have to do it. So we'll see what happens. But still, there's some good news on the way, and I just don't have the time this week. So thanks for understanding. Now, first off, we got some good news this week in Oakland. First off, the Alameda County Board of Supervisors voted to put the recall of Pamela Price, the vote to recall Pamela Price. Oh my God, see, this is what happens when it's off the cuff. The vote, they chose to put the recall vote on the November ballot. So that's great. No special election to recall Pamela Price, which would cost the county $20 million and also would give the recall its best chance to succeed. Honestly, they need low turnout elections, and with this being a presidential election, it's going to be anything but. So the recallers are trying to play it off like, oh, this is great, we'll do this, we'll show. And it's honestly, Pamela Price is going to fight. Everyone knows the deal now. They saw what happened with Chesa Boudin. They see the ongoing corruption with all these outside interests. So they know they're going to stop this. So this is wonderful. I'm so glad Price has been very upfront about how she's going to fight this, because it is about protecting democracy and fighting against people that think they can buy anything they want. So good luck, Pamela Price, and good job, Alameda County Board of Supervisors. In other news, other great news as well, Neighbors Together Oakland has to stop taking donations. Now, what's Neighbors Together Oakland? Oh, remember Seneca Scott from episode 3 with my interview with Mark? Yeah, that guy, the guy that sent death threats to politicians, loves to take pictures of himself holding machine guns. The guy is the worst, and apparently he's even terrible at running a nonprofit, because he's been taking donations for Neighbors Together since 2021, and yet he still hasn't filed the proper paperwork to run a nonprofit. Like the most basic thing you have to do. He wants to be in government, and apparently you can't do the simplest things in a government. And to do, the simplest things as part of a government. Like that's the easiest thing to do. It's paperwork. That's all you have to fill out. What is the issue? What's the problem here? So yeah, it's great. I mean, the Attorney General Rob Bonta, the California Attorney General Rob Bonta, had to get involved and send him a cease and desist. So this is great news. Especially he's supposedly leading the recall against Mayor Shang Tao, and this is not going to look good for him. So great to see him fail miserably. Kind of bad news over in Berkeley. Actually, first, let's start with Sonoma State. The university there had its own pro-Palestine encampment, and the president of the school, Mike Lee, he met with the students and came away. I mean, this was after 3 weeks. He came away not only, wanting to divest from Israel, he wanted to cut off all relationships. We're talking like academic collaborations. It was pretty much the biggest step forward against Israel from the academic side. I mean, a university president saying, no, we're done with all this and we're cutting this off. Well, now he's on leave. and he's in trouble because apparently he didn't talk to the California State University Board of Trustees. So he's on leave. He's going to be replaced. He says he's working things out, but it was a really good step in showing how serious universities are about cutting off from that evil country, Israel, and the genocide, for promoting and excuse me, not promoting, I mean, straight up just engaging in genocide. That what's going on in Gaza is a genocide. All the experts say so. The only people that deny it are the people that are invested in Israel. So it's the kind of thing that needs to happen right now. But you had people like our faux left liberal. I mean, he's a Republican, but gay who hates Fox News. Senator Scott Wiener, he whined and moaned. He's never said anything about children being killed in Palestine, all the innocent people getting killed, anything that's going on. He's just full-throated supporting Israel every step of the way, totally taking up that, oh, think about the sad Jewish students at school. They must feel so scared. No, the people that are really scared that we should really care about are the children in Gaza who, at any moment could be bombed and lose their lives. So, yeah, poor Mike Lee. Thanks for trying, but it's Zionism is entrenched in our government, and it's really intense, and our academics clearly. I mean, it sucks, but it just shows we got to keep fighting. And related to that too, just a few hours ago, um, CHP, as well as some Berkeley police, even though Berkeley Mayor Jesse Arreguin denied any Berkeley police involvement, they just cleared out an abandoned building near People's Park that had been taken over by pro-Palestine protesters. It was the building itself, the Anahead Alumni Hall. It was empty, it was dilapidated, so they took it over. They changed it to Heinz Hall, named after the little 6-year-old girl who was trapped in a ambulance, and the IDF not only killed her whole family while she was calling for help, they killed anyone that tried to help her and killed her. So, because the IDF is beyond evil, just the same level as Nazis or Mongolian hordes or any kind of evil army you could think of. They're right there, and so that's why we're having this protest. And anyway, so they took it over today. There was even some great resistance. People had come out to block the cops from coming in, but it was for naught, and it was all cleared out. So we'll see what happens next. But good try, protesters. It's really screwed. I mean, Berkeley is not the same Berkeley that inspired the free speech movement now. It's Blackstone owned and operated, run by centrist, aka right-wing Democrats like Chancellor Christ, who, care way more about pleasing the rich than keeping up Berkeley's reputation for being a school for the people. So we'll just have to see what happens. And then finally, I want to wrap up because I want to talk about Frank Somerville. Now, Frank Somerville if you don't know who he is, he's a former TV anchor. He was actually kind of the face of KTVU for many years, and actually a really good guy. I mean, he took over from Dennis Richmond. Now, Dennis Richmond is a legend, especially for being one of the first black anchors. I think probably the first black TV news anchor on a major station. And he did it for years. I have stories about him. Good guy from what I could tell, but, not the nicest. But I knew Frank really well. I worked with Frank for 6 years, and he was a good guy. Now, he's been recently having some troubles. He basically it just was announced that he was going to go to jail for 30 days after he got super drunk and fought his brother at his home in Berkeley twice, apparently, or at least was harassing him. It was like once he came over and fought him, and then he went to jail. Then he came back to get his car, and then he came back at like 3 a.m, was like harassing him some more, and was still drunk, and it's just not good. Poor he was, being pretty scary from what it sounds like. He was fighting with his dad. He was harassing his sister-in-law, his brother's wife, sending texts, and he's been losing it. So actually, so it was announced first that he was going to go to jail for 30 days. Now it seems like he's just going to wash the cars of Alameda County sheriff's deputies. So he's going to be washing patrol cars. That's so he doesn't have to go to jail. It probably would be a big pain in the butt to have somebody famous in jail, especially they have to worry about how the other inmates treat him, that kind of thing. So it's probably cost effective and, as they'll see it, embarrassing enough. It's humiliating enough that this 66-year-old legend of Bay Area news is going to be forced to be washing cars for the deputies. Pretty sad stuff, but it really does come after Frank has had kind of just a real bad breakdown. He's been really losing it, and it's been shocking to me seeing it from the outside. Now, I haven't talked with him since I left KTVU in 2014, but it has been quite the change. And I mean, honestly, when I knew Frank, he was super nice dude, and kind of dorky, but like a really good dude. um Vegetarian, very proud vegetarian. I don't even know if he was vegan, but proud vegetarian. He was very proud of he had adopted a black daughter and was just over the moon for her. Well, he also had other kids too, and he was great with them too, but I think there was something to him having a black daughter and what that was like for him. He was also like what I love talking about. He was a militant atheist, militant. So he had great. So we could have our talks, and it was. I mean, and say what you will, he was very much. If you've ever seen the movie Broadcast News, he was very much like that William Hurt character, the typical news anchor, where people, he might not have always been on it. He might not have had like every bit of trivia down. I remember Mark Ibanez, the sports anchor, he would pick on him. He would razz him, especially I mean, what Mark really loved to do is that Frank Somerville drove a Dodge Viper. I know the truly, if you've never seen one before, look at a picture. It is hands down the most phallic car ever produced. I mean, more than anything, it is just one long penis. But anyways, um, Frank liked to speed. He was a fast driver, and what Mark loved to do was get in front of Frank and drive real slow to piss him off. And that was, he was kind of set up like that. He was a good guy. He wasn't like Albert Einstein genius, but a really good guy, and he was good at his job. I remember on the weekend that Asiana 214 crashed, he was called in because it was a huge deal. This is the biggest plane possible, 737, somersaulting when it tried to land at SFO, and just chaos everywhere. People dying, things on fire, and there's a whole other story there, but we're not going to get into that. But we knew we had to jump on it because it was a huge story, especially it was a Korean plane. So this was an international incident that we were at the center of and we were at it first. And I was jumping on it. At the time, I was an online producer, so that means I'm just focusing on getting out social media. I'm getting out online stories, just anything I can, gathering all the info I can, updating our news desk to what I'm finding. And, most of the time people would, peop, we wouldn't, the online guys, we wouldn't get the respect. The online guys, even though we were usually the ones that were first with reporting things and seeing things, um, we everyone thought it was the writers and everyone else doing all the work, but no, we truly, I mean, I would have put up my reporting against any TV reporter in that newsroom. And so right before Frank had to go on, what does he do? He doesn't go to the news desk, doesn't go to other producers, he goes right up to me, because he knew I was the guy that had everything, and I gave him I had just so much to give to him, and he went right on. And dude, the dude killed it. I mean, he seriously, for I don't know how many hours, like the guy just could get on during a breaking news story and just roll with it and just report it like he was the man. And I mean, there's so many other stories like that too, like the opening of the New Bay Bridge. He was the guy. I mean, he just knew what to do in that situation. And so, like, when everyone's lined up, and I'm not kidding, cars lined up for miles to drive across the bridge as soon as it opened. So he was the guy, though, that like knew what to ask the Caltrans people that were setting everything up. And, right before things were open, he was the one that signaled it. He was the one that asked the spokesperson, hey, so what are we looking at? What time here? Perfect. Perfect. Because that was it. And then everyone knew. And truly, I mean, it's hard. I mean, there's a reason why he was at where he was at. And he truly was, for a while, the highest paid anchor, highest paid media personality in the Bay Area. And that's over the top of, sports guys usually got way more attention. I'm forgetting the sports anchor who cried about Barry Bonds, Gary, whatever, but he was well paid for a bit because of that. But no, Frank was number one for a good reason, and he paid his dues too. He was a guy that he, even though I believe he's kind of born and raised in Berkeley, he had to go to the Midwest. I think he did time in Minneapolis and other places, and that's what you got to do, especially back when he was coming up. That's what you had to do in TV news biz. You had to go to the middle of nowhere and just cut your teeth. And so he was at the peak of his game. So when I left basically not long after the Something Wong incident, which Frank had nothing to do with, but Frank sure did have to apologize about it a lot. And I will tell that story sometime. But through a series of events that basically led to Cox, the owners of KTVU, selling to Fox News. Now, KTVU was always a Fox, or I think was always a Fox affiliate. When I worked there, it was a Fox affiliate, and that had its issues. It was great for TV. I mean, we had The Simpsons, that's rad, and all the other kind of related stuff like that. But at that same time too, we would get these reports in like packages from their, Fox News National, and every time you'd be like, what is this? Why are we running this? What is this about? I mean, it was such a joke. So, but it was our choice. And so we could push that side. We were basically, again, not to bring up the Mongolian hordes and Genghis Khan, but we did definitely had the hordes at the wall, and we're still fighting them back. But after the Something Wrong and that huge embarrassment, Cox wanted nothing to do with KTVU, and they sold it to Fox News. I think they traded for a station Fox had in Boston. So, but now they have the number one station in the Bay Area, and I luckily got out of there in time, but from what I can hear, it was a mess. It was terrible. They offloaded anybody with like great experience that knew what was going on, all the writers and producers like that. They brought in a lot more they brought in a lot more white people, pretty white people, honestly. There was a good amount of diversity before then, and then it kind of seemed to get more Fox Newsy, if you know what I'm saying, waspy and all that. And you could see the change in the coverage. You could see how they just basically they eschewed, like they just dumped all the stuff we had built up over the years on the site. They cleared the website. And we're talking our coverage of Oscar Grant. I mean, that's KTVU is the station that first aired the Oscar Grant video. I'm actually the guy that posted it. It was me who had Ed Chapuis come over and say, you need to put this on, or at least tease it and then get it on. And that's what I did. I set it up so we could get that video out there, and it changed my life. Not in the sense of like maybe famous or anything. No one knows who I am. Who cares? I don't want to be known as that guy. It's just a truth. It's a total fact. But it's changed my life on how I saw police and everything else. I mean, that was in those days, that coverage of it was so important. We won a Peabody for it. And that was all the online stuff. The Peabody was for the online work. And that's all gone. Fox cleared it, wiped it out. All that stuff, all that important information, all gone. All the Flash work I did. You remember Flash? Oh man, I was killing it on Flash back then. Anyways, but it really seems like things change, and it really seems like things went really Fox News. And knowing what I know about Frank, I think that was really hard for him. I really do. I can't confirm it, but because I haven't talked to him since then, but I know it changed a lot of people. A lot of people got out of the business because of the switch, because of the sale. I know a lot of people were just waiting to get out of there. Very few people I worked with are still there now at KTVU. Um, and I mean, I think that's partially to the Fox strategy, push people out and get people cheaper that are more like them, So, and I think Frank was signing $1 million contracts to stick with him. So I think he had to stick around. Actually, he might not have been $1 million, might have just been 6 digits, but still high digits. But I do think it was like $1 million, because he was so dependable. He was just perfect for that job, And knowing his beliefs, he wasn't, it's not like he was on TV going, you know, communism rules, or bring down the system, destroy all corporations. No, he was working for corporate media. No, but he was a good guy. He was a caring guy. I was talking about this with D. Scott Miller, the who I interviewed last episode, and what D pointed out, which was really important, was that one thing that Frank was really big about was his love for Oakland. Like, he loved Oakland. He would send over drone footage that you just like gushed over. And the thing is too is that, you know what, a lot of people in Oakland, they don't hear good things about it. That was really notable, that he cared. He really was a part of the community. And I could see, because now what is TV news? What is Fox News right now? All retail theft, crime wave, and look at all the crime in Oakland, even though it's down, and all the kind of pro real estate, anything that local businesses, any that, or at least the bigger interests want, it's I'd go far as say is basically all local TV news is in the pocket for business and the police, but that's a whole other discussion. But I just wanted to say that, like, when you see these things about Frank and you wonder what's going on, if you know anything about him, like if you've ever talked with him, and or just was knew about him from his show and maybe followed him on Facebook, just know that, like, this isn't like I don't see this as the real him that's coming out right now. I think this is a guy that's having a bad breakdown. I think he worked years to get to a point, to get to this job, to get to the height of his career, and then had it all basically, from him. I mean, that's the thing. Like, this was me too. This is why I'm doing this instead of working for a station. I The stuff I loved most about the news was that it was doing good. It was serving our community, our entire community, the real community, not just real estate interest. I'm talking about everybody, like looking at the people, finding, yeah, sure, reporting on what's going on, like not to create a narrative, but to literally, like, hey, just so you know, there's a fire over there, there's a shooting over there, watch out or be aware of it. That's why you have traffic problems, that kind of thing. Doing a service. And I believe he bought into that too. And that's why he was so good at his job. And that's why you could put him, hey, we got breaking news. Something just blew up. Get up on there. And he would just go up there and rock it because he was on a mission. He was driven by that mission. And, you know, when that whole, I mean, that did the same to me. I remember, yeah, let's just say this business has definitely driven me to drink as well. I just, I'm better at handling it than poor old Frank, but, and not to say that there wasn't a lot of drinking before then, not just me. I mean, and I'm not saying I have a problem, but like, reporters drink. Trust me, there's a lot of stories of reporters drink. There's a bar nearby KTVU that you could either go, you would find both reporters and the cops. But anyways, um, so it's I just want to say, it's very, from somebody who knew him, I understand what he's going through. I really want him to get help. I think and I just want people to know that, like, this isn't him. He's a good dude. He's a really good dude. I think his world crumbled around him, especially too. It sounds like, I after the Fox News stuff, as he started having issues with his adopted daughter too. I hope, I don't know what that could be about, but you know, I know he cares about her so much, and so if they're having problems, that probably is really throwing him off. It's probably terrible for him because loved her so much. So just have some patience, have some sympathy for Frank Somerville. That's what I ask of you. He's never done anything that bad. This sounds like, I mean, I'm sorry. Richard Sherman did very similar stuff, and what you hope is they learn their lesson and they move on. Thankfully, no one was hurt. I think people were scared, and not to say scary situations can't be traumatic. And apparently, like, I think he punched his brother. People had bruises and stuff, but that's family stuff. They can deal with that too. I know there's always been fighting in my family, like especially my uncles and stuff. Same kind of stuff. It's just family dynamics. But at that same time too, I really do think that he is a victim of the breakdown of the news industry, or at least the selling out of it. You know what? Let's forget this objectivity stuff. Let's not even try, let's just think like the news should be benefiting business. That's where especially TV news is coming from. Like, very rarely do you see critical investigations anymore, anything that's really making a difference, unless it's the usual stuff. I mean, TV reports used to get Pulitzers, 60 Minutes used to be a juggernaut for news reporting. I mean, they're the ones that found the Unabomber. They're the ones 60 Minutes broke the fact that cigarettes were causing cancer and the industry was trying to hide it. Great things came out of TV news, and that's all been destroyed. That's all been removed. There's no, if you care about serving community, if you care about real journalism, you're not on TV news. You're just not. Just unless it's like some independent thing like Democracy Now! Or something like that. But we're talking about legacy TV news. We're talking about the CBS, not Fox, but NBC, ABC, CNN, even MSNBC, all these stations, maybe over time they've been switching over to the dark side, but you would know that with corporate stuff. That's kind of obvious. You should never trust, cable news, but the local stuff, you're serving community. You're like a local newspaper, and they're abandoning that. And it's crushed my soul. It's absolutely just the journalism business in general and where it's going has crushed my soul. And I think that's happening to Frank too. So have some sympathy for the man. I hope he's working things out. I hopefully he's able to just retire and take it easy now too. I think he's 66, so hopefully it's just easy sailing from here on. So good luck, Frank. Hopefully I can talk to you someday and just find out what's going on, buddy. So that's it for this episode of Doomloop Dispatch, except for one more thing. We got some big news. It looks like I'm going to be taking on a co-host. D. Scott Miller, and that guy I talked to, the former managing editor of the East Bay Express, the man who coined the term Afro-surrealism, like truly one of the smartest people I've ever talked to. Just such a great guy. I talked with him a few days ago, and I think we're going to start doing this together. I think this is going to be, we're going to be a team working on this together to bring you all the leftist news and commentary about the Bay Area you could ever want. So I'm so excited. I'm so honored to be working with D. He's a great dude. It's going to be so much fun. And hopefully, it'll make you want to listen more and share with your friends and get more people involved, because his perspective is amazing and it's just going to make the show so much better. So reminders, please like and subscribe on YouTube. Please write reviews on Apple and Spotify for the podcast. And, if you don't like YouTube and you don't have to look at my dumb face. And please support me on Patreon. I'm still putting out episodes, original press. Maybe I'll try to find now that I got D to help me, maybe we can try to think of some other content to put on there just for Patreon subscribers. So you gotta survive you gotta survive for one, but you also gotta subscribe because we need the help. We need to justify doing this. Like I'm telling you, I should be getting a job. But it's kind of too much fun. I also feel like I have to do this. This is so somebody needs to be saying this stuff. So if somebody else wants to come and say it, please. But until then, I'm going to be saying it, and hopefully people will start paying me for it. With that being said, thank you so much for your support. I hope to see you next week. And until then, keep fighting the good fight.